Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Moneyline MMA's coverage of UFC Fight Night Vegas 78, occurring at the UFC Apex on August 12th, with the prelims beginning at 3 p.m. Central Time, with the main event, as usual, starting at 7 Central Time, or I believe 8 Central Time, somewhere around there. And it's going to be an exciting card with Vicente Luque being the headliner, fighting an RDA, an older RDA. It's not necessarily a retirement fight for him, but he is getting to that point where you wonder if he's actually trying to make another run for the belt or what he thinks he's doing there. But anyways, before we get too deep into our picks for this Saturday, let's discuss quickly what occurred last Saturday. Jose and I were in attendance for UFC Nashville. It was a great time. We saw every single fight from top to bottom on that entire card. It was wonderful. At the Bridgestone Arena, they had a great venue. It was set up amazing, and they put on one of the most beautiful shows I've seen in person for sure. And specifically with our picks, my picks did pretty well. I ended up putting my 5-weight on Suarez, who got the job done. She came in there and honestly pretty much did what I expected against Andrade, and the rest is really history. I'm really curious to see where Andrade goes from that loss. But in any case, bouncing from that, my 4-weight, Diego Lopez. What a banger, dude. He just went in. I mean, I was a little skeptical even in the show, right? That Lopez has a little bit too much height maybe, and that was the one thing that was concerning me. But wow, he went. I mean, that was awesome. He beat up. I don't know. That was awesome to see. I obviously won some money off of that. Great job, Diego Lopez. And even from there, my 3-weight, Corey Sandhagen. That was one of the most decisive losses Rob Font has probably ever taken in his entire career. I mean, no doubt about it. Just from top to bottom, Sandhagen wrestled him. Easy, got the job done with an injury to his arm as well. So we'll have to see how long it takes him to recover. But you can best bet that Sandhagen is going to want to be, at present, I would assume, at the Anjos Sean O'Malley fight. We'll have to see what happens there. Any case, Jose's picks were mostly the same, so Jose also had a great day. Outside of us both losing,
Well, kinda.
yeah,
I kind
yeah.
of
I'll let you take that away.
most of mine. Yeah, for example, my 5-weight Ignacio Bahamundes was
Yeah,
utterly disappointing. That was, that was pretty tough. I felt really strong about him. Tucker and Alaska as well. I mean, what can I say? Bozier came in on top, and yeah, Diego, he looked sharp. Uh, Overall, yeah, for me, I hit hard. I hit with the Suarez and Sandhagen, but other than that, to be honest, not so much of a hot night for me.
yeah. I guess you're right. Maybe I overplayed your night a little bit because I'm sitting here because the only fight I lost in that was my 1-weight. I had Kennedy, who ended up getting absolutely beat up by Dustin Jacoby. That was an impressive showing for sure, from a guy that was much smaller than Kennedy. Dustin just went in there and knocked him up. So that was the one that I got wrong. Otherwise, riding with me last week won some money for you, which is awesome. But that being said, I got confidence Jose is going to bounce back this week, and I know for sure that I'm going to continue the hot streak moving. But in all honesty, it'll be left to be seen what happens there, because if we don't agree on a couple of these picks, one of us is still going to be out for a disappointing night. But that being said, we're going to bring these picks to you guys as usual in the weight system, where Jose picked 5 of the 6 main fights. Main card fights for UFC Vegas 78, and we make a pick we like, and then give it a weight 1 to 5, with 5 being the most confident pick and 1 being the least confident. So kind of at least gives you guys an idea of the picks we have and the confidence level we have in those picks. And as usual, we start from the 5-weight, the most confident pick of the night for Saturday, which for me is going to bring us to what will be the feature bout of the night. Khalil Roundtree is fighting Chris DeCaus in a light heavyweight bout. And I've got the favorite here. Simple to say. I've got Khalil Roundtree beating up Chris Dickhouse and getting the KO. I will go so far as to say Khalil Roundtree specifically by KO. He is a minus 210 favorite. Dickhouse is plus 162, which is even going to show that the money's been being put towards Roundtree. Depending on the book you were looking at, Roundtree opened in the upper hundreds and is now in the lower 200s, giving me even more confidence that the betting public also agrees Khalil Roundtree's the guy to go with. Jose, what do you have for this fight?
Yes, for this fight, I also have Khalil Roundtree, and he's my 5 weight as well. Yeah, I'm looking forward to see Chris Dickhouse give it a shot here at light heavyweight. He's just right now, he's come off a couple losses at heavyweight. He's lost to Junior Rosenstrike, Curtis Blaze, and Derek Lewis. Those are some big names, so I don't blame him going back down to light heavyweight. I mean, he was just going against top killers, and they really threw him into those guys because he beat Alexei Olenek and Shamil, and then after that they just fed him to the wolves. Derek Lewis, Curtis Blaze, and Arsenio Rosenstrike. I don't think he's really caught a break at the heavyweight division, so I think good for him for coming down. And even then, I think he's going to put up a good fight. He throws a good amount of significant strikes. He lands a good amount per minute. He lands 6.41 significant strikes per minute, while Khalil Roundtree lands 3.67. Khalil Roundtree is known to have phenomenal Muay Thai, so I do expect this fight to be mostly on the feet, and I expect Chris, he's probably going to be bringing power with him back down to light heavyweight. But I think Khalil Roundtree, he's just been looking too good as of recently, and as we just saw, Dustin Jacoby, he just came off a spectacular win in the first round against Kenny Jajukwu, and prior to that, he was coming off. Khalil Roundtree has a win over him, so. I think just seeing how Dustin's fight kind of played out, just really says to how Khalil Roundtree is kind of really putting a nice streak coming together and looking pretty phenomenal. I mean, he's a finisher. I mean, seven out of his 11 wins come via KO. So this fight, I don't know. I see a guy from heavyweight bringing power down with him, and I see a phenomenal striker who has great fight IQ like Khalil Roundtree. I don't know if this fight's going to go to distance. It's definitely going to be on the feet, and someone's, I think, going to get knocked out. And for this one, I think it's going to be Khalil Roundtree at the end coming in victorious. I just think, I truly believe Chris Dickhouse has not been catching a break right now recently in the UFC. So for this one, yeah, I got Khalil Roundtree as my 5 weight.
Yeah, that's an interesting take that I didn't consider looking at this fight in terms of Chris Dacouse's kind of like adventure through the heavyweight division and kind of how, I mean, to be fair, he opened up against Parker Porter. That's a pretty low end opponent. They did give him like a couple of low end fighters, but no doubt about it, a jump from Shamil to Derek Lewis is unprecedented in the heavyweight division. That's almost like never been seen. I feel like that's a very big step up in the heavyweight division. And then even after losing to Derek Lewis, giving him Curtis Blades is like pretty much saying that he's an established top heavyweight that gets to intermingle with those other top heavyweights. He gets spanked by both of them. I will say I like the match. Looking back on it, maybe I'm crazy, but I like the matchup against Rosenstrike. I think after losing 2 in a row, Rosenstrike is still a step down from both Curtis Blades and Derek Lewis. But he's also still a little bit of a step up from Shamil. I think, in all honesty, they should have, if possible, I obviously don't know the scheduling, they should have went Shamil, Rosenstrike, and then see what happened before throwing him to Derek Lewis right away. But, it is what it is. Dickhouse accepted the fight. He signed on the dotted line, and he is obligated to get the job done. He must have thought he could win. You don't sign on the dotted line unless the money's that good if you think you're going to lose. I really don't think that was the case for him. And it just concerns me, the fact that he hasn't even made it 10 minutes in any of his last 3 fights. I get that they're top, good heavyweights, but Curtis Blades really doesn't knock that many dudes out. And after getting knocked out twice in a row, would you not think that he would go into the Rosenstrike fight against the guy who's notorious for getting knockouts, right? And have a boxing game ready? No, he gets knocked out right away in the first round again. It's just like I don't have a reason to believe in DeKalb whatsoever. I haven't seen anything lately. Maybe if he steps on the scale on Friday, dude, and looks like a new like alien man who's like Derek Lewis with a six pack. You know what I'm saying? It's like maybe then will I be like a little bit like, but honestly, that to me is going to be kind of unlikely. And I think Khalil Roundtree himself is going to look chiseled and big and strong. I think he's a good sized light heavyweight. So that being said, very confident in Khalil Roundtree.
So yeah, so you guys heard it there. Both Nick and I agree on Khalil Roundtree. He's our strongest pick at being both our 5 weight.
Yep. Now we can move on to your 4 weight since we got my 5, but we agreed on that anyway. But we'll still go to your 4 weight.
Yeah, so for my 4 weight, this is actually the main event between Vicente Luque and Rafael dos Anjos. Right now, Rafael dos Anjos is the betting favorite at -128, while Vicente Luque is the betting underdog at +100. For this one, straight up, it's hard to deny RDA. He's seen it all. He's been through it. He's been the champ at 155, and he was a title contender at 170. I think this is a fight he should win. He loses the ones he's even lost some that he actually I feel like he should have won. But overall, I think that he's a very well-rounded fighter. He's got good jiu-jitsu and great striking, and he's not really the same guy he used to be. He's not really, I think, going to be looking for that finish or submission. He's going to be looking for a unanimous decision. Ultimately, that's what it's going to be. And the thing with that is, though, he can also fall on the losing end of that. For example, with he fought Kobe Covington and Kamaru Usman. That's a 170. Those guys, you can argue are slightly bigger and stronger than him, and he was able to go toe to toe all 5 rounds with them, and that was 2018. But he's also with the current champ Leon Edwards and Michael Chiesa, and he did get finished in the 5th round. So he did make it to the 5 rounds, but ultimately he got finished by Rafael Fiziev. But he bounced back with a submission over Brian Barberina, and I just think that that's just showing like he's still got that fight left in him. He is 38, but that's I think with him, he hasn't really shown much that he's been aging that much besides just being a little more aware and cautious on how he approaches people. He's not as aggressive anymore. So yeah, someone can take advantage of him like that in terms of just putting on heavy pressure and nonstop. But I think Vicente Luque, he's coming off 2 back-to-back losses as well. And I just don't know if he's as good to beat RDA. I mean, it's silly to say. I mean, anything can happen here, but I don't see him. I think if he's going to beat RDA, it's going to have to be via submission. And RDA actually has never been submitted in his career. And again, he's a black belt in jiu-jitsu as well. And I think his jiu-jitsu can be pretty comparable to Vicente Luque's, at least to defend submissions properly and not get submitted. Whether Vicente Luque can knock him out or not, I'm not sure. Vicente Luque does have some KO power behind his punches, but he's not really known for that. He actually he is. I guess he's got 11, but he's had it's I don't know. I don't see him putting RDA to sleep on this one. I think RDA is going to get the unanimous decision win, or if he doesn't get it, it's going to be unanimous decision loss. But I feel good enough with the level of expertise in RDA in terms of the level of competition he's gone against and how patient he is, that it's like how patient he is now as most recently. It's going to be I think it's going to be a unanimous decision win for him. So for this fight, who do you have, Nick?
Man, this is a really interesting one. We do disagree in the end. I do have my 3 weight on Vicente Luque, so a little less confident than my 4 weight. As you have for RDA, but still relatively confident there in Luque. I think the matchup here is really interesting. I come into this fight, or at least come into the last fight I saw against Luque, right, when he got knocked out by Jeff Neal, and then we learned that he's got this brain bleed thing going on or whatever. I'm immediately thinking, let me go against Luque almost, whoever he's fighting against, and they toss him RDA. So, it's so hard, man, because RDA, he's to me very undersized in this situation. 6-inch reach disadvantage, 3 inches shorter. I get that you did mention that he's contended well with some guys that are bigger than him, so that has shown true. RDA is a wrestling monster, and that's kind of one of the things I do hope and anticipate Luque is able to throw away. RDA is thrown over 2 takedowns per fight. And I think if Luque can shrug those off, make them as a non-factor, I think he can pull away for more of a decision win here. I'm not sure how confident I am in him getting the knockout on RDA as well. I agree. Only Fiziev recently has been able to knock out RDA. Otherwise, RDA's really only ever lost by decision, except recently Fiziev and Eddie Alvarez, like way back in the day. So, yeah, I'm not banking at all on a Luque KO or anything like that. I'm more or less just thinking Luque is able to control the pace a little bit. He's a little younger. I'm anticipating him to be in a little bit better of a shape. And obviously the size advantage, since he's weight a little bit taller and he's got much longer of a reach. It's just and on top of all that, the whole brain bleed thing, I get that's definitely a concern, right? But I just don't think, like, going the other way around. I'm not saying that Luque is going to knock out RDA, but I'm also not thinking RDA is going to knock out Luque. He has very few KOs on his record, and RDA is not generally known as a strong puncher. He's just a really well-rounded fighter who can wrestle extremely well, and he's got a lot of submissions on his belt as well. So that kind of made me ease my concern a little bit about the whole brain thing, because if Vicente Luque is not going to be cleared to fight and doing fight camps and this and that, if he's going to just get punched once and have problems, right? Maybe if he was in the heavyweight division, he'd have some concern, because pretty much everybody in that division can throw some heavy hands. But right now, as is, in the welterweight division, or even if you try to move up to light heavyweight, I'm not sure there's enough guys there that are just like home run hitters, I guess, outside of Pereira at light heavyweight now. Even middleweight too. But nonetheless, I've got Vicente Luque here for my 3-weight.
Okay, yes, so yeah, this one we definitely disagree on. I do I will say that I am kind of nervous about the reach advantage and the volume of strikes Vicente Luque throws. That's the one thing, it just depends. That's just going to dictate how this match goes. I'm banking on RDA staying sharp on his feet and not being overwhelmed with any blitzes or anything that Vicente Luque may have. Vicente Luque, Stephen Wonderboy Thompson has shown too that, like, if you can keep them at bay and just stick to your game plan, you can slowly break them down almost systematically. And I think RDA is good enough to do that. So for this one, yeah, we're gonna have to agree to disagree. Vicente Luque definitely a legit threat. And I will make a comment, Nick, too. I will stick with it with our RDA being my 4-way, but I actually did have him as my 3-way, but I did not adjust on my personal list. So yeah, so for this I do have him as my 4-way. But,
Okay.
I was concerned for my 3-way, but he is my 4-way.
Okay. Yeah, dude. I think that's a good assertion on it, and it's just a matter of which way it plays out. So yep, that'll be your 4-weight and my 3-weight, which will move us on to my 4-weight pick, which is going to be the co-main event of the evening. We've got a couple of old geezers, I'm gonna call them, on this card. The first being RDA and the second being Cub Swanson. It's another situation where I don't think he's announced it or anything, but it's a lot of people are maybe kind of assuming or thinking that this could be his farewell fight. He's not 30 years old yet, or 40, years old yet, so he could keep going. We've seen a lot of fighters recently, like Glover and even RDA as well, have some success in their 40s. We can see if Cub wants to continue, but that'll likely be a factor of how the fight finishes on Saturday. Cub Swanson's currently a plus 196 dog in this fight, and Dawodu's minus 260, a pretty heavy favorite, which in all honesty has inflated since the line opened. So my final pick on this one, though, is Hakeem Dawodu as my 4-weight. I'm just pretty confident he's going to be able to get the job done against an older Cub Swanson. Jose, what do you have for this one?
For this one, I'm gonna agree with you. I have Hakeem. He is my 3-weight as well, and like you said, I do think Cub Swanson's time is coming. He is coming off of that loss to Jonathan Martinez in the second round, and Hakeem too lost to Julian Rosas. So I'm going with the younger guy though overall in this one. I think Cub Swanson is definitely past his prime. But not that being said, he still throws a high volume of punches. He throws 4.68 significant strikes he lands per minute, while Hakeem's over that and lands 5.33 significant strikes per minute. Yeah, I think it's safe to say this is going to be fun one on the feet, and Hakeem has a 3.5 inch reach advantage. Both are the same height, so I'm taking, when it comes to striking in that reach advantage, and if he throws a high volume of punches, I definitely feel pretty confident with him racking up the points. Probably good enough to go to unanimous decision. That is if Cub Swanson doesn't take him down and try to apply some submissions. 13 out of his 28 wins do come via submission, and he's gone the distance with the good likes of Kron Gracie without getting submitted. So I don't think he should be worrying about that from Hakeem. I think he should be worrying more maybe just not being put to sleep. Hakeem hasn't put anyone to sleep in a minute. So I do think if he doesn't put, if he doesn't put Cub Swanson to sleep, I think he's just gonna drag this out to a unanimous decision. So for this one, yeah, I got Hakeem. I got the younger guy on this one, Nick.
So yeah, we do agree, but I think we have similar concerns as well. Although a little bit different, I'm not as concerned about a submission. I think there's a chance that Cub Swanson wrestles with Dawodu, which might be smart. But Cub Swanson himself, he, if I'm not mistaken, I'm trying to see. I don't think he has a submission in the UFC at all. In all the fights that he's done, he's been submitted. Oh, he has a guillotine back in 2009. That's his only UFC submission by a win. I'm not too concerned about him submitting Hakeem. It would just be a wrestling situation, which could happen as well, but he's gotten one takedown in his last 3 fights. But to be fair, all 3 of those fights did end and not go to the decision, so there could have been more time for takedowns to occur if the fight didn't end early. And yeah, that is an interesting stat too, that he didn't even have to worry about getting submitted against Kron Gracie, but neither of those guys landed a takedown anyways. So that entire fight was done on the feet, which Kron Gracie is almost never going to get in that situation. So man, it sounds like we agree, and I don't think the Woodoo's going to be able to get the KO. If he does, Cub Swanson should probably retire.
Yeah, I agree. So yeah, for this one, yep, both Nick and I have Hakeem Dawodu up for this one.
Yeah, so that's so that being said, that covers both of our 3, 4, and 5 weights. Just to quickly recap, my 5 weight, Khalil Roundtree, which also happens to be Jose's 5 weight. My 4 weight, Hakeem Dawodu, who we just discussed, and Jose's 4 weight is RDA. And then my 3 weight, Vicente Luque, and Jose's 3 weight, Dawodu. So we've only disagreed on the main event as so far, and we both have 2 picks left to give. Let's move on to Jose's 2 weight.
Yes, so for my 2-weight, this is actually the female fight between Poliana Viana and Yasmin Lucendo. Right now, Yasmin Lucendo is the betting favorite at -210, while Poliana Viana is the betting underdog at +162. I think for this one, I'm going to go with the underdog, Poliana Viana. She's coming off a first round KO, and prior to that, she did come off a loss to Tabitha Ricci, but as of recently, Tabitha Ricci's been looking good. And she actually entered the ranking column for the division, so I think no shame in that. Poliana Viana, she's top 5, no, not even top 10, but she's still in there and she can hang. Yasmin Lucendo, she's coming off a 3-round decision, unanimous decision win over Brogan Walker, and for this one, I both. I think Pollyanna, I'm gonna have her taking the win just over the more UFC experience. She's not old; she's only 31 years old, and with the amount of UFC experience she has, to me, I think that's pretty valuable. Her submission skills are up there as well. So I think I'm not saying Yasmin Lucendo's isn't. So for this one, I think overall the grappling may be almost neutralized. If anyone goes for a takedown, it's most likely going to be Poliana Viana, and she does have 8 submission wins out of her 13 wins. So that being said, I think for this one, she's most likely to get a submission. I guess best way to put it. If Yasmin Lucendo were to take this win, she may win it via K or Tico because that's what she's best known at. But to be honest, Poliana Viana has also never been put out. So I just think that her being the more experienced fighter is going to ultimately lead her to victory on this one. And she does carry a slight 1-inch reach advantage. but that's not saying much. I think overall she's gonna get this win via unanimous decision. It'd be cool to see if she gets a finish. She did come off a KO, first round KO, and I didn't really know Viana as being a KO artist. That being said, anything's possible. But for this one, I got her winning via unanimous decision. Did you put a weight on this fight, Nick?
No, I mean, I guess first thoughts is definitely probably Anna Viana, but Lucinda's just too young. But no, I don't have an official pick on this one. So, you got Viana for your 2-weight, right?
Yes, sir. Yep. So for that one, yeah, that concludes in there. Yeah, I got Viana for my two. Not much
Okay.
more to say about that.
Sounds good. Well, in that case, we can move on to my 2-weight then. We're going to go to one of the early fights on the card, but honestly, a fight that I think is going to be one of the most exciting fights on the card, especially if I was attending this card in person like we were able to see UFC Nashville last week. I think this would be one of the best fights that I'd be looking forward to. This is the Fawn and Chukwui against AJ Dobson. AJ Dobson's just this jacked mother effer, you know what I'm saying? And he's coming off 2 losses, but he's always got that threat of strength and power. But he's also got his first UFC debut in the, well, it wasn't necessarily his debut because it was the Contender Series, but he won his Contender Series win with a submission. So he does have jiu-jitsu abilities as well. But my pick on this for my 2-weight is Stefan and Chukwui. Both of these guys are coming off a couple of tough losses, in which Dobson lost by decision, and Chukwui got knocked out twice in a row. So those did happen over a year ago. Stefan's had more than enough time to recover from these, and I think he's going to look really good against AJ Dobson, who has a strikingly negative striking differential from 4.34 landed to 6 absorbed. AJ Dobson's just proven that he is not very good at standing, and he will scramble and go for the wrestling when he feels threatened. And in some cases, he'll get out wrestled like he did against Jacob Malkoun, and in which case he got controlled for almost 10 minutes and lost the fight. So in all reality, I just don't think AJ Dobson is well-rounded enough to get the win, because the striking differential is going to be way too big to see against Stefan and Chukwui. Jose, what are your thoughts?
Yeah. So for this one, I'm gonna have to disagree with you on that. I did not put a weight on this fight, Nick. So this is why I think you have to find. Like you said, I think it's gonna be a good fight. It's gonna be one of the more exciting fights, definitely on the card. Um, this one for me, I thought it was just too close because I thought either guy could honestly take it. So, but you're making good points. So I'm definitely gonna have to agree with you on this one. But I do not have a weight on this one. But I would take Tafan.
Okay, yeah, fair enough, man. I think Stefan, the biggest threat for him is getting wrestled. He has a 71% takedown defense, and I think he's done well in mitigating takedowns in the past. Jun Young Park is the only person to take him down more than once in the previous 6 UFC fights that he has of experience, which is also 2 times more than what AJ Dobson has seen. So yeah, that being said, I have Tefan as my 2-weight, and Jose did not. Jose deferred on this one. So that being said, we're left with one fight on the main card, and I'll let Jose introduce it, but it will obviously be by process of elimination. The main card opener.
Yes. So for this one, this is between one of the bigger fights. It's Josh Frem and Jamie Pickett. Josh Frem right now is the betting favorite at -310, while Jamie Pickett is plus the betting underdog at +230. And when I meant one of the bigger fights, I meant one of the bigger boys at middleweight. And for this one, simply said, I'm gonna go with Josh Frem. Jamie Pickett has not really been looking good. He's on a 3-fight losing streak. He most notably lost to Bo Nickel via arm triangle, and I think at this point it's just not. I don't know. I don't see this guy really showing much in the UFC to stay there long. And I think Josh Frem at least he's still got in it. He's lost to some names. He's lost to some of the not the best dudes in the UFC, but some up and coming guys. Like he's lost. He lost to RoboCop back in the day at LFA, and he has gone into the UFC and lost to like Anthony Hernandez and Tresean Gore. So for like this, happening like this later on in his career is to me it's like, okay, they're not the biggest names, but definitely dudes you need to overcome to even break into the top 15. And so and then getting this win over Cedricus Dumas in the second round earlier this year, I think that kind of solidifies him to get back in and try to enter the ranking systems. He's a pretty well-rounded fighter. Out of his 10 wins, 4 KO, 4 submissions, and 2 decisions. I think that he actually has the ability to make it an early night for Jamie Pickett. I think that he can either I think he can probably gain a submission on Jamie Pickett. Jamie Pickett has 4 losses via submission. And again, like I mentioned, most notably recently to Bo Nickel. It's just really tough. I don't know if Jamie Pickett will be a guy that will be able to bounce back, being 0-3 as of recently. I think striking wise, both guys match up pretty well. Both throw slightly over 3 significant land over 3 significant strikes per minute. So I do see both guys touching each other up. Jamie Pickett has a longer reach advantage. He has 6 inches more than Josh Frem. But again, he hasn't really shown much. So as Josh Frem comes in the aggressor, I think he can make it an early night. So for this one, I do have Josh Frem as my one weight. My least confident, Jamie Pickett's still a legit threat. He needs this more than ever, but he's 13-9 in the UFC as well. So maybe I should have had Josh Frem higher up on my list. But for this one, yeah, Nick, I have Josh Frem as my one weight. Who do you have for this fight?
Yeah, I mean, we disagree on this one, but obviously I'm not very confident either at my one weight with Jamie Pickett. It's funny how we disagreed, but we both were like, I don't know, like it's our least confident. But I'm still somewhat confident here. I agree, and I acknowledge is the word I'm looking for, everything you said about Jamie Pickett, but to that I would also say that Josh Fremd has really little praise to be given. Cedric Dumas to me is he's a street fighter that has his wins against in the UFC. Well, he has one, and it was the last second replacement Cody Brundage. I don't even think Cody Brundage was ready for that fight. He just went in there trying to wrestle, and it didn't work. Even in that fight, Cedric landed like 17 strikes in a unanimous decision win. It's just weird. So to me, Cedric is not an impressive win, and that may not be a popular opinion. So in my opinion, neither of these guys. Because that being said, I agree with you, and I acknowledge that Jamie Pickett does not really have an impressive win in the UFC either. I'm just making the claim that neither of these guys have good UFC wins, and I think Jamie Pickett's currently being looked down at more than he should be because of Bo Nickel. I think Bo Nickel's just the next. Jamie Pickett should not have signed on that dotted line. I think he knows that. Bo Nickel is just going to wrestle his ass to submit. I mean, Jamie Pickett has no outstanding ability to deflect takedowns. It was just a bad stylistic matchup for him. He should not have taken the fight. And Josh Fremd has shown a little bit of an ability to wrestle as well. Obviously, having choked out Dumas, so he has some of the threat to do jiu-jitsu as well. But honestly, I'm not really thinking that's going to be a threat here against Jamie Pickett. I'm confident that Jamie Pickett is going to be able to deflect takedowns against a national champion, one of the rare talents in Bo Nickel. And it's also for me a pick, not as much like I think Jamie Pickett's just that much better than Fremd. I don't think that's the case at all. I think both these guys have a good chance to win. But to me, I can't believe the odds, dude. Minus 310. Josh Fremd is minus 310. That to me is just insane. What has he done to be valued at minus 310? I mean, he better be fighting a guy that's a nobody, in my opinion, because Josh Fremd's one win I'm not impressed by. So on top of me somewhat liking Pickett to win the fight, I also just think it's a great value bet to make by getting plus 200 against a guy that has one average UFC win at best.
Okay, yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, and yeah, I totally agree with you. Josh Frum has not done much. Yeah, he needs to get this. I don't even think this win alone does anything really for him. I think he's gonna need to rack up a couple more impressive wins to even get a chance to crack at the top 15. So for this one, yeah, we both could agree to disagree on our final decision, but we both agree that we're not as confident in our picks just because pretty much unproven they've been in the UFC
Definitely
thus far.
Yeah, definitely. Jamie Pickett, I mean, he is definitely on grounds to be released if he loses this fight for sure. He has to put something together.
13-10, yeah, that's. I don't know how they can fight that long in the UFC.
You're right, and it's been multiple early finishes too. It's not like close split decisions.
Right, yeah. So Yeah, it should be 4-0. Like, not saying it should be, like, or else we wouldn't have seen Tony. But
Right.
there's some
Yeah.
guy. This guy ain't Tony.
Yeah,
He's
we
not the
can make
unlucky one.
exceptions. We can make exceptions for sure. But yeah, that covers all of our picks for UFC Vegas 78, headlined by Vicente Luque and RDA. If you guys want to go ahead, this being on streamed on YouTube, you can easily rewind and go back to check our picks that we made. We always start with the 5 weight first. So definitely scroll earlier on in the video if you want to see who our most confident picks are. Thank you for listening, and definitely don't forget to subscribe. We're going to be bringing you some heat next Monday as we have UFC. I think it's 292 or 293. I don't forget the number exactly, but it's definitely the Aljo and Sean O'Malley headlined event. And I can tell you right now, Jose, I'm going to have Aljo as one of my heavier weights in that card. There's no way Sean O'Malley gets the dude off his back. I think Sean O'Malley has a great chance maybe standing with a little bit of a reach differential, but honestly, I don't think it's going to be that much of a factor. But I don't want to go too long about next week. That's what we got for this week, and definitely don't forget to comment. That's what I was thinking about is comment down below and let us know who you agree with. We got 2 disagreements. We got Luque and RDA, or Pickett and Josh Fremd. So thanks everyone for listening, and have a good rest of your week.